Hello, everyone, and welcome to Thorough Newspaper Analysis. So, these are the articles that we'll be discussing today. So, we have three articles. So, one is from two of them are from Hindu, and one is from the Indian Express. The first article is "The Road to Zero Hunger by 2030." Now, since we have a World Food Day today, so it is observed on 16th of October every year. So on that account, we are recognizing the need to eradicate the problem of hunger by 2030, which is also a sustainable development goal. Then the second article is "Should the government regulate TRPs?" which is again from the Hindu. So this article actually talks about the TRP issue, as we know that it is too much into news these days, and today we'll be talking about it in detail and as to what can be the steps that we should take to curb such kind of scams, or at least we are calling it a scam right now. And thirdly, best way out. This is from the Indian Express, and it talks about that how India, rather than focusing of being a protectionist economy. Now, what actually do we mean by it? We'll definitely discuss in the article. And we should actually try to explore more avenues at the global level and become a country that has a greater outreach in the global scenario. And then the fourth one, we have the news and flash, wherein we'll be discussing the small and crisp news points that are more important for your prelims exam. So if you're also preparing for judicial services exam, you can definitely enroll yourself in our course that we have as the lord of the courses. That is the Judiciary Test Prep course. So the link is there in the description box. Do check it out. And from the web page or the landing page itself of this course, you can download free study material if you're also preparing for the same exam. Now let's see that what is the multiple choice question for the day. Nandankanan Zoological Park is located in which of the following states? First, Kerala. Second, Assam. Third, Madhya Pradesh. Or fourth, Odisha. So if you know the right answer, you can put it down in the comment section below. So this is the descriptive question for the day. Discuss in detail the role that media plays in ensuring the freedom of speech as well as the right to information of the citizens. So here actually the role that media or the social, any kind of, you can include any media that is the social media or through the news channels or the other means that we have through media. So you can talk about it. The answer must be written within a word limit of 250 to maximum 300 words. With this, let's start with our discussion for the very first article, which talks about the zero hunger. Now, as I already had said, that today is 16th October, and on 16th October, we observe the World Food Day. And this time, as we know, that the Nobel Prize for Peace has also been given to World Food Program, that is an agency of the United Nations, for its great endeavors for eradicating hunger and to help people get away with malnutrition and undernourishment. Now, keeping that in mind also, since we are in the year 2020 and for the Sustainable Development Goals, we have only 10 years left. Basically, the SDGs or the Sustainable Development Goals are a set of 17 goals that were decided by the United Nations, and all the parties or all the members of the United Nations in its General Assembly, they have various kinds of agendas like for poverty, for hygiene, cleanliness, education, economic growth, climate change, etc. Now, in that regard, the Sustainable Development Goal number 2 talks about zero hunger. And that is why it becomes really important for us to realize that this is high time that we invest our efforts into this direction in providing food security to each and every individual in the world. So basically, the theme for this World Food Day is grow, nourish, sustain together. Our actions are our future. So basically, the COVID-19 has posed a threat to food security and agricultural livelihoods. And as we know that even in India, the subsidies, or in a way, the free food grains were also provided, and they're still being provided till the month of November as yet. And the government is making sure that due to COVID-19, no person should stay hungry, because obviously the means of earning have been put down. The economy is not faring well. And due to this, the people, those who were already at a verge of malnutrition or undernourishment, or at the, they were insecure with their food and other stuff. So they were at a greater verge, or they were more vulnerable to become to lose out on the food security. And according to the World Food Program, there are approximately 690 million people in the whole world who are hunger stricken. So this is really bizarre, and we should definitely take care that we are investing a lot in this area, because hunger is something that is the root cause of most of the problems in this world. Now you can take it to malnutrition, you can take it to lack of economy or the slower growth of economy, lack of education as well, because obviously if your body is not supporting you, you can do nothing good in that regard. And also in the terms of war and conflict also, many a times people tend to tend to support a particular power because they ensure them that they would be giving them food. I know it is really difficult to believe, because we being very privileged people, we do not really have this food scarcity, thanks to God and the Mother Earth, obviously. But then there are a lot of people, for them even having food for one meal or another meal is a big fetch to do. And in such a scenario, to sustain themselves, they many a times get involved into a lot of criminal activities and other such conflict arising activities as well. Now let's talk about the India and what is the status of food security in our own country. So the agriculture sector has fortunately grown at 4.4% during the first quarter of 2020 to 21. Now, as we know, if we talk about the other aspects of the economic growth, so for the first quarter, we had seen a negative growth of 23, that is minus 23.9%. But on the contrary, the agricultural sector had thankfully seen a growth of 4.4% due to two major reasons. Firstly, that the COVID-19 did not really hit very hard on in the rural areas, and secondly, the monsoon was it was comparatively very good this year, and that is why it actually helped the farmers to raise a better land. Now, the second, the government initiatives that have been taken during this time. So the government has distributed around 23 million tons of food grains through the public distribution system. It has mobilized food rations for 820 million people, that is, of which 90 million are school children. Integrated child development services that have been providing cooked food for 100 million children under 6 years of age, and also to pregnant and lactating mothers. By lactating mothers, we mean that the mothers who actually feed their babies after the delivery, and they feed their babies with their own milk. So those mothers are known to be as the lactating mothers. And the midday meal program that we all know about. Then there are some related statistics about this. About 40 million children are chronically malnourished. So this is actually in the whole world scenario. 40 million children are still chronically malnourished, and half of the Indian women aged 15 to 49 are anemic. By anemic, we mean that they lack iron, basically iron or hemoglobin in their blood, due to which a lot of other diseases as well as malnutrition or the other kinds of issues arise in the society, and specifically if we talk about in the health sector. Now, these are the current issues that are being faced by the agriculture, specifically if we talk about in India as well. The excessive use of chemicals, because we know we are still trying to shift towards the organic system of farming or the organic fertilizers, but still there is a heavy use of chemicals that actually makes it a huge problem, because these chemicals also get transferred to the food grains or the food that we are consuming, and ultimately deter the health and the psychological aspect of the humans. Secondly, unsustainable farming practices that actually has been the cause for soil degradation, fast depletion of the groundwater, and loss of biodiversity, of course. And 86, this is basically this point, the next one which we are going to discuss is about the uneven fragmentation of land or uneven distribution of land in the country that still exists. That 86% farmers have less than 2 hectares of land. That is, per person, if you talk about per farmer, and of which 60% of the total production. And from these actual 86% of farmers, we get the 60% of our total production. So this is really like a lot of burden is there on an individual farmer, and we need to give them better facilities for better food. And then the climate change has caused various pest and locust attacks. Now, very recently, you must have heard that the locust, huge swarms of locusts had actually attacked a lot of fields and a lot of vegetation, and it had actually destroyed it completely. So actually, the reason why the locust could breed in such huge numbers was the climate change, because the climate, the moist and hot climate that they really require was actually available for them due to the climate change. Now, the steps that have been taken to deal with climate change, so it's not like that we haven't really done much in this direction, but obviously we need to do a lot more. So we have tried to develop drought and flood tolerant seed varieties. Now, one day, a few days before, we were discussing about artificial intelligence, and AI has helped significantly in developing these drought and flood tolerant seed variants or the varieties. Then weather-based agricultural advisories, and even our various satellites, and even ISRO helps a lot into bringing down a lot of or bringing up a lot of predictions that are related to weather, like for flood or any kind of cyclones, etc. And promotion of millets and small-scale irrigation as well. Then the steps that have been required to be taken is that methods for food production must change through agroecology and sustainable practices, and we should stop food wastage. And approximately 1/3 of the total food that is produced is wasted. Now, how you must be thinking that the food is wasted, and why? What leads to the wastage of food? So there are a lot of factors attached to it. Like, for example, a lot of food or the food grains are actually spilled over and wasted in the means of transportation. So many times when the trucks are actually carrying the food from one place to another, a lot of or in many situations the food grains get spilled over, or they just fall down from the trucks and all. Though if we talk about one situation, it would really seem that it would be just half or 1 kg of some grain, but if we talk about it in totality, it actually accounts to a huge quantity of food grains. And then there are also many cases when proper cold stores are not available, wherein we can store the food grains that are of perishable nature. Like, for example, many times the fruits as well, even the food grains, they become moist and they get spoiled. So we need to have these facilities so that we can ensure proper transportation with minimum wastage, as well as proper storage of the food grains as well. Now let's understand that what has been the contribution of United Nations or its various agencies for ensuring food security in India. So the FAO, which is the Food and Agricultural Organization, IFAD, which is the International Fund for Agriculture Development, and the World Food Programme, which has now, the World Food Programme has been given the Nobel Prize, of course, for peace. So they have worked a lot in improving the situation for food security in India, and India has had a great or a significant amount of help from these agencies. So this year, FAO is celebrating 75 years of fighting hunger in over 130 countries, and IFAD became the first United Nations agency to receive credit rating, and the WFP received the Nobel Prize for Peace. So it is like one of the, it's like a golden year for all these three agencies that are working for food security, coming from the side of United Nations. Now with this, let's discuss the second article for the day, which talks about the regulation of television rating points, TRP. So if like all of you, the viewers, I think you must be the ones who must have, who are young or who are like of the millennial generation. So you must have really heard about a lot of TV shows, and basically if we talk about, I would not really name those TV shows, but we have had them on specific TV channels like MTV and so they actually have had a lot of discussion about increasing the TRP and raising wrong by doing some wrong means, or exciting the public about some things or some stuff. So basically the entire question was about TRP. But what actually was the TRP? So TRP is basically the television rating points, and TRP is the reading or the rating which tells that what or how many people are actually viewing a particular channel or a particular show on that channel during what exact time. Like, for example, if any show runs from 9 p.m. to 10 p.m. So, and a lot of people tend to watch that same channel during this time. So the authorities would know, the people, or the concerned people would know that it is this particular program that makes people more interested towards our channel, and that is how the TRP of this entire channel is raised. So I hope the basic idea about the TRP is clear. Now, very recently, Mumbai Police Commissioner, or basically the Mumbai Police, has allegedly busted out a TRP racket involving 3 news channels, and the major one in this being the Republic TV channel, which is hosted majorly by Arnab Goswami. So the Mumbai Police has said that these 3 TV channels, basically these 3 media news channels, they're mostly like one of this at least is a media channel. actually they try to manipulate the TRPs. They pay the people for watching their channel, and that is how they actually increase their TRPs, and this is how they're actually inducing or in a way manipulating the minds of the people. So in pursuant to which the Broadcast Audience Research Council, so basically this is the body that takes care of the entire regulations in this area. So basically it is an industry body to design, commission, supervise and own an accurate, reliable and timely television audience measurement system for India. So this has actually now come into action. So what are the issues involved? Financial fraud, obviously, because viewership generated advertising spending of rupees 27,000 crores and channel ratings are being distorted for advertisement. So basically what happens is that like just imagine a situation where there are two TV channels. So TV channel A and TV channel B. Now TV channel A is something which people are watching a lot, and it is like in the most of the situations people are watching channel A only, and channel B is something that is watched only by a few people, and so on and so forth. Now there is an advertisement, a company that wants to put up its own advertisement for any particular product. For example, for an advertisement for shoes. Now, which TV channel would this advertisement company choose to put up its advertisement? Obviously, channel A, because this advertisement company knows that it is channel A which is being watched more by the people, and channel B is something that is not really watched or is not much popular amongst the audience, and so they would not put up their advertisements. And when these advertisement companies put up their advertisements on particular channels, they actually pay handsome amount of money to that channel for putting up their advertisements during their programs. Now, this actually makes sure, or this actually is bringing the financial fraud, wherein the news channels actually manipulate the TRP. They make the people watch their channel more, due to which the advertisement company thinks, or obviously it knows now, that this is the channel that the people like watching more, and so they pay good amount of money for running their advertisements. Now, this causes the financial fraud. Secondly, morally and ethically wrong, because obviously media, being called the fourth pillar of our democracy, has the responsibility of not spreading any kind of misinformation or disinformation, and it has the responsibility for creating an informed citizenry. But obviously, if you are just aiming to increase your TRP, definitely you would want what we call as the media masala, and you would not really stick to the real facts of a particular incident, and you would want just people to get hung up with your channel, and for that matter you would just show anything. For example, let's take a very, very famous case of the Sushant Singh Rajput death. Now, whether it is a death like as a suicide or a murder, it is yet to be decided by the judiciary, but still the media trial is going on, and every now and then, leaving all the important debates aside, the media channels are just putting up this entire issue. And you must have noticed that it was the Republic TV that was the most prominent channel that was broadcasting issues regarding the Sushant Singh Rajput death. Now, this is something which is very, the people want to know a lot about. This is something that is giving them a lot of masala. And that is why this channel earned a lot of TRP, and due to which it is earning a lot of money as well. So this is how they actually manipulate or invent the facts on their own in order to misinform the public and earn their own financial benefits, which is obviously morally and ethically wrong. Now, why are the concerns with TRP? So actually, let's see that what are the concerns basically that are attached with the TRPs. So inadequate sample size. Now, what we need to understand is that this authority BARC actually did a survey on only 44,000 homes. Now just imagine the entire population of India, and of that population, just imagine how many people or how many households would be watching TV. Of course, they are into lakhs and crores. But the survey was done only on 44,000 homes, and in Mumbai, the city of Mumbai, only 2,000 homes were actually surveyed. Now, how did they actually survey it? They actually had put a device called as people meter. So it was just like a remote control, just like we have the remote for our TV. So they had actually given this remote control to the people or in that home, and they actually told them that whenever you are watching a channel, you have to press a particular button, and when you stop watching that channel, you have to press the stop button, so that the frequency or the timing of that channel would be noted down, and so the authority would know as to what was the total duration in which a particular channel was watched. But then again, the question had come that these TV channels, and if we specifically talk about the Republic TV channel, it was said that it was actually giving gifts or some kinds of, exchanges, like a dinner set to the household or a new TV set for the household, and they made sure that they are watching their channel for the longest hour, longest time, or the longest hour period. And this also had actually manipulated the entire survey. Then the competition for TRP is huge, and it leads to unethical practices, as we just said. And as I just had mentioned, the SSR of the Sushant Singh Rajput case. Then lack of transparency, whose rating is going to whom, which channel is actually getting how much of rating. It is just very opaque, and it is really difficult to understand the real scenario. And then advertising and purchasing power, the exact thing that I just discussed, that the channels that have huge or greater TRPs have greater purchasing powers, and that is why they bring more and more advertisements. And for getting this purchasing power, they use various unethical means. And the people meter was installed only in the poor households, because why in the poor households? Actually, the BARC, this authority, it gave some amount of money. I guess this was some of 1,000 rupees or some amount of money that was given to the households for installing this people meter. Now, obviously, the people who are belonging to poorer household were more incentivized to get this people meter installed in their homes, because of the obviously the economical insecurity, and the 1,000 rupees coming to them were obviously seeming really good. In such a scenario, the multilateralism, or to say the different aspects of this survey could not be brought out, because the survey was done in just similar kinds of households. And to come to a proper result, it is important that different kinds and different social strata are surveyed in a proper manner. Now let's see that what are the steps that can be taken in this direction. Increase the sample size, because obviously now they're saying that just 44,000 households were surveyed. So we should definitely have a greater, area to survey this entire issue. Second, allow multiple agencies to calculate TRPs. So obviously there should be no autonomy in this regard, and multiple agencies should be given this power or the authority, or in a way, a chance to calculate the TRPs. Thirdly, establish a self-regulatory body. Now, the big question is that should the government be intervening in this issue? So the authors are basically the intellectuals in this article said that we don't really need a government intervention in this regard. Rather, this entire industry of media should develop for itself a self-run and independent regulatory body to which the government will facilitate the process. So it is something that they need to make sure that this is not happening, because obviously if any one channel takes the benefit of wrongly brought TRPs, it is a loss not only to the audience but also to the other stakeholders and other media houses that are available in this industry. And that is why it is important that they keep a mutual check and balance, just like we have in our legislation, judiciary and executive. And fourthly, pass laws providing sanction on violating the regulations. So if some violations are there, so definitely some good punishment or penalty should be provided in this direction. Now with this, let's discuss the third and the last article for the day, which talks about the economic development, and a comparison is there with Bangladesh. So as per the International Monetary Fund's latest World Economic Outlook, now this also should be remembered that which international body deals with the World Economic Outlook, or which releases the World Economic Outlook. So it is the International Monetary Fund. So due to COVID-19, the global economy is expected to contract by 4.4% in 2020. So Indian economy is estimated to contract by 10.3%, and it is something that is even worse, that was actually calculated earlier. And Italy and Spain would also be contracted in the double digits. Now here a very good comparison has been drawn with Bangladesh. So where the per capita income, if you talk about the per capita income, basically per capita income is the income that is earned by one individual. So this is like an aggregate that has been taken out. So it is the income that is earned by one individual, and the Bangladesh per capita income is expected to overtake that of India in 2020. And if you talk about the per capita GDP, that is the gross domestic product, by 2025 Bangladesh per capita GDP will be slightly higher than India. So why? Now how do we understand that Bangladesh, if we talk about just in the economic sense, India is a far stronger country than Bangladesh in the economic status. But still, in the coming years, it is estimated that Bangladesh will surpass India and will become, in some, at least in some areas, better and stronger than India. So the reason for Bangladesh's good performance is the high export in garments and apparel. So if we talk about India also, India has a huge trade with Bangladesh. In fact, India has the largest trading partner of India in the South Asia or in this region is Bangladesh, and of which the textiles is a very big commodity, and electronics as well. And even if we talk about Bangladesh, Bangladesh is also a very big exporter of garments and apparels. And this export regime has made Bangladesh a very stronger economy as it was in, just a few years ago. And steps that we need to take in care for India also, that we need to increase the exports. Now, as we know that India actually has a trade deficit with a lot of nations, like for example, if we talk about the with China as well. So China is also a huge trading partner for India, but India has a trade deficit, which means that India imports more and exports less to China. So we need to increase our imports, and secondly, lower the tariffs, and also we need to actually embrace free trade agreements and integrate with global supply chains. By lower tariffs, it would mean that the things, the commodities or services, whatever we are importing from outside, we put less duties or tariffs on them. But obviously, for making India Atmanirbhar and for securing the domestic players, we actually put a lot of duty or tariffs on them, so that the internally or the indigenously produced goods don't seem to be very expensive. But we need to lower down the tariffs and get into more of the free trade agreements that would ensure a better flow of goods and commodities and services as well, and integrate with the global supply chains. For this, all of these things, we need to be very strong in our manufacturing sector as well. With this, let's discuss what do we have for news and flash. First, Bhanu Athaiya passed away. So Bhanu Athaiya was a famous costume designer who was born in Kolhapur, who became India's first Oscar winner. Now this is really important. This can be really asked in exams, for her work in Richard Attenborough's Gandhi, which was it was released in 1982. So this was an autobiography of the art of the costume design in 2010. She was diagnosed with brain tumor in 2012. So Adopt an Animal program. The program was revived by the Nandan Kanan Zoological Park in order to mobilize resources for the animals. It is one of the leading zoos in the country in terms of fauna, population and species diversity. So Nandan Kanan Zoological Park is it actually became the first zoo in India that got listed in the VAZA, which is the wildlife and zoological and aquarium authority. So that actually the world authority for these zoos and aquariums. And it is very famous for its white tiger and pangolin as well. And this is actually, this is you have to find out as to in which state this is. Thirdly, GST compensation to states. So there is an update actually. So the center now has announced that it would borrow a sum. Now, as we know that the huge tussle between the center and the states was going on regarding the GST cess or the GST compensation. So earlier the center had said and asked the states that you borrow the money and complete your deficit, whatever is there. But now the center has announced that it would now borrow the money or a sum of 1.1 lakh crores on behalf of the states to bridge the GST compensation shortfall. So this was all for today. We hope it was a good session for you. Stay tuned with Law Seekho for such more sessions to come. Thank you so much.